Go on in. Hello, and welcome to Sideways. This week, we're talking about why people embellish the truth and how, although frustrating, it's often an indication of low self-confidence. We wonder what it would be like to wake up at your own funeral, hear about small animals travelling in underwear, and realise that one of the most insufferable characters of 21st century cult comedy, the Inbetweeners, was probably just expressing a cry for help. Exaggeration.
Good morning.
Top of the morning to you.
And to you, sir. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks. I don't think we've used that greeting, have we?
No, we haven't. It's sort of associated with our Irish cousins.
Yeah, I don't think I've got any Irish in me.
Have you not now?
No.
I resisted the temptation to do an accent there.
I'm glad about that.
It wouldn't have been good.
No.
So anyway, yes, I'm sorry I didn't answer your message earlier on. It's just I'd lost my phone. And
Did you?
I hadn't lost it. I found it again, but I suddenly realised that time was getting on.
And where was it?
Eh?
Where was it?
It slipped down the side of my bed. Yeah. So
it's funny because I was just going to say, was it down the side of the sofa? But it wasn't the sofa.
It's down the side of my bed. So I hadn't looked at it to see your message about starting a little bit earlier. So I do apologise. That's
all right. That's like one of those excuses for forgetting your homework at school, isn't it?
It sounds flimsy, but I haven't exaggerated the truth at all here.
You're getting quite good at this, aren't you?
Which is what I wanted to talk to you about today. Yes, exaggeration.
Oh dear, it's almost like I'm rehearsing it.
I know you're
rehearsing it.
It does sound a little bit like that. You fed me a good line, which I obviously use my professionalism to seize upon.
Can you imagine how appalling it would be if this were actually a rehearsed?
It wouldn't work, would it? There's no way.
But can you imagine it if it was this shambolic?
And it was rehearsed. I see what you mean. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, there'd been no excuse.
Anyway, exaggeration.
Yeah, well, it's an idea I'd had for a while, but I only recently put it on the list. The reason I put it on the list is because I had a bit of a reminder because I bumped into someone who used to come to groups some time ago.
Right.
Everyone used to be amazed at just how much he seemed to exaggerate quite mundane events beyond all recognition.
Really?
Yeah. And sure enough, he went back into type when we were talking. But it just made me laugh. And I mean, he'd stretch an anecdote even more on the second or third telling. He'd forgotten what he'd said first time round and would go again, you know?
So what are you able to divulge the sort of nature of the exaggeration that you're talking about here? What is it, an embellishment of the facts or just make everything sound grander, or what is it?
Well, you never quite knew really. You never quite knew as to whether it was complete fabrication or whether there was an element of truth in that at all. But it is sort of, we come across it a lot in the recovery community. I'll come on to a little bit why, but in a minute. But a mutual friend of ours who's sadly no longer with us, who was a heavy opiate user.
Yes, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, his dad always used to say that he was either lying or exaggerating or both. Anything he said was along those lines.
Right.
And some people don't see exaggeration and lying as mutually exclusive anyway. But again, I'll come on to that. But I wanted to have a look at what exaggeration was and examples and why people do it really, and how best to deal with those people, because we all come across them, don't we? I think you probably, as soon as I said to you we're going to do exaggeration, you probably could summon up a few names of people you'd known from the past who would fall into that category of stretching the truth somewhat.
Yeah, I've met at least 1 million of them in the last week.
Well, hey,
I thought I'd get that one in quite early.
Early door, yeah. It is easy to make dad jokes, isn't it, along these lines?
God, that was a burn.
Was it a burn? Sorry, mate. It wasn't. It came across badly. I agree.
Okay, good.
But before we start, just a couple of things I came across. Now, there was one headline about a woman or a little story about a woman coming back to life in the hearse on the way to her own cremation. Now, it was in India. Now, it was. I mean, it could be. I mean, that's everyone's worst film. Getting buried alive must be an awful, awful thing. But
well, she wasn't going to get buried alive. She was going to get burned.
Well, quite coincidentally, she had officially died after suffering severe burns in a house fire. So wow. That'd be the mother of all triggers, wouldn't it? The mother of all flashbacks if you suddenly start getting burnt again, waking up while she was in the funeral pyre.
Oh, my Lord. Yeah, actually, didn't we have a story similar to this some months ago? There was someone that had been buried and was knocking on the roof of their coffin. We may
have done. I know we did. We talked about the shape of coffins and coffins that were made bespoke.
The shape of a Fender Stratocaster.
That's
and
it.
Stuff,
yeah, just spoke the people's interests. Yes, but that's always it's one of my recurring fears of getting buried alive.
Is it?
I've dreamt about it. Yeah, I've dreamt about it.
Do you want to be buried or cremated?
Oh no,
we deal with this at this point.
Yeah, no, I want to go in the flames. Certainly, yes.
Okay, so okay. I don't know what would be worse: waking up with the flames licking around you, or realising
it'd be a painful death. It'd be a painful death, but quicker than starving to death and
suffocating.
Yeah.
So the key here is for everyone to make sure that you are actually dead.
I think so. Yes. That obviously there was that had been in this lady's case that had been proper medical examination, although she'd been officially declared as dead. Obviously been a little bit shoddy.
Well, if you go before me, I'll make sure that someone offers a second opinion. How about that?
Yeah, just stab me up or something. Yeah, just stamp me. The second story that I came across, which was quite bizarre as well. The security at a Bangkok airport detained this guy after they noticed a conspicuous bulge beneath his waistband. Oh. And a search revealed that he was trying to smuggle, get this, 2 Asian small-clawed otters and a prairie dog in his trousers. I mean, for God's sake.
Come on, we've all done that.
Hadn't we? Yeah. Oh, yeah, he pleaded his innocence. Oh, I thought he was allowed to bring these through. Yeah. What's the problem? Apparently each of these animals were in separate socks. Right. And he'd sewn them into the inside of his boxes. So he'd gone to some length to bring them through. Obviously, they had some value when he got through customs. But you can imagine that, trying to keep that lot quiet on an aeroplane. I mean,
and also, what an unpleasant way to travel, right next to someone's genitals. It's bad enough on a plane as it is without having to basically travel in somebody's underpants.
Well, yeah, quite. Yeah, it's not a great start to these poor little wee animals' lives, that's for sure.
Oh dear. So anyway, he was caught, and hopefully the animals were liberated.
They were liberated. They were all fine, apparently, right. and he got heavily fined.
If a little traumatised.
If a little traumatised, yeah. I was going to look up small clawed otters to see what they look like, but.
I expect they look like otters with small claws, don't they?
Yeah. I think they're nitpicking, aren't they? The people that discover new species. This one's just a slightly smaller claw.
Yeah. I imagine otters probably need quite substantial claws for all that building they do.
They don't mess about, do they?
No, they're like sort of nature's little diggers, aren't they?
They're very, very constructive. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Subject matter then.
Yeah.
So I realised looking at as to why do people exaggerate? Okay, right. Because as I say, we've all come across them. And when I was doing the research, I came across the psychologist Robert Feldman, and he cites exaggeration as protecting self-esteem or maintaining social contact as the reason people exaggerate, or in his words, lie. He didn't see them as mutually exclusive. Whichever way you cut it, exaggeration is playing with the truth, he says.
Yeah.
Birthed out of insecurity, is deceptive, and it can damage the core of many relationships. Yeah, so that's how he saw it. Just as a quick summing up.
Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? Because I think you exaggerate or lie, or whichever way you want to describe it. If you don't feel as if you're enough as you are without embellishment.
Yes, yeah, no, absolutely right. There was
probably why it happens a lot in recovery.
Yeah, it does. It does.
You think it does?
It does. It happens a lot. Actually, I'll go on to that point. Yes. Well, there's a lot of different. When I was doing this research, I looked up lots of different people's input upon this. I didn't just rely on this Robert Feldman, and I come across a number of different reasons, opinions of others as to why we exaggerate. I just wanted to go through some of those.
Okay.
The first one was many of those who exaggerate have the tendency to seek attention for themselves. So attention seeking is definitely a way to get attention is exaggeration, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, you only really need to be attention seeking if you feel as if there's you're not substantial enough that you're not going to be recognised without trying to do something to draw attention to you.
Exactly. It leads on to the second point. They either feel very inferior or very insecure.
Yeah.
And they want to appear interesting, which is another point. I've come across that quite a lot. Or they need others to like them.
Yeah, it's surprising actually how many people I've met over the years or worked with over the years who really feel as if they don't have anything unique to offer to the world.
Yeah.
Which is odd, really, because by virtue of existing, we're unique, aren't we? I mean,
I think so.
Two people don't do the washing up the same, I mean, you probably wouldn't want to chat about it at a party.
It's not great.
There's that sort of inherent uniqueness in us. Nobody does anything the way you do it. That's just the truth, right? And
absolutely.
I suppose I've been surprised over the years by how many people don't see that as being in any way valuable. I don't mean valuable in a tangible way, but that sort of sense of uniqueness being valuable. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, and I think do you remember we did an episode on the search for an identity?
Yeah.
And I think people, when they do it, especially in your youth, when you are scratching around trying to find out exactly who you are, a lot of people will exaggerate at that point about what they've done and what they do, almost as a way of almost forging an identity from nothing. And I think that, but you talked about it in recovery. I mean, it is endemic certainly in the early recovery, because most of us in active addiction have led very dull lives for a while. There's nothing to talk about apart from where you'd stolen your drink or drugs from, or there's drama, so bad drama, but nothing really that you'd want to build your identity upon. So people exaggerate, and that happens all the time. But I don't see that as an issue anymore, because I see people get better and rein that in.
You see, I think it's interesting that, because I completely understand why someone in the early stages of recovery would feel as if they didn't have anything to offer in terms of their 5 or 10 years of active drinking or whatever it was. But actually, if you're talking to someone who has a genuine interest in you, that too is interesting. I don't mean in a sort of fascination car crash type of a way. But I think part of understanding someone is also part of understanding what they've gone through emotionally, that might be emotionally dark. So I think to a large extent, that sort of belief that we have that whatever it is that we've gone through is not interesting is a reflection of the way we think about ourselves, not necessarily the way other people think about us.
You're absolutely right, but I see it in recovery as inextricably linked with denial. Yeah. Where people are going, and I was probably the same. You're in denial that you've got an issue, and therefore you're trying to put on this face that everything is normal. Not only is it normal, it's great. Yeah. So I can see it's almost like a self-defense mechanism, especially in a peer group situation, where you don't want to just. I mean, if only people knew that what they are saying is incredibly interesting. Everyone has got, as you can imagine, what people have gone through, the dramas that people have gone through. Yeah, it's amazing, and they're the strongest sort of people you'll ever come across in those settings. They don't need to exaggerate, but most people will, or a lot of people will, in that, because they feel, the self-esteem is shattered. They feel they've got nothing to offer, and an exaggeration of the truth makes them sound more interesting. But you're right; they're more than interesting enough.
It's certainly something I think we do as a way of getting ourselves accepted by a group. I think that's quite. So I suppose that's one of the other reasons why it might be quite prevalent in peer support, because not only are you feeling vulnerable because you're at the start of your recovery, but you're also trying to become connected to a bigger whole, aren't you?
Yeah, you are.
And sometimes not just in recovery, but in any situation like that in life, we might sort of think to ourselves, oh, I've got to try and make myself seem as interesting as possible. Otherwise, people won't want to accept me.
Well, quite. Yeah, I won't get invites to parties or something. It's like that. But there's people I've come across also that use exaggeration to manipulate the minds of other people, manipulate the mind so that they receive the sort of benefits that they're seeking by false means. And just for an example of that, I've known people that would say they've got a big circle of friends that are like quite hard, so don't cross me, sort of thing.
Okay.
And so that's a self-protective method that I've come across there. They're sort of they're sort of almost like wannabe gangsters. They'll exaggerate, and that's quite common. I've come across.
That's also about belonging, isn't it? It's also trying to associate yourself.
It is.
I mean, it's partly about identity.
Yeah.
I want you to think that I move in these circles.
Absolutely
so
right.
Beware of me.
Yeah.
But it's also it's partly about wanting to associate with a group again. These are my friends. These people are going to protect me. When often I expect in that situation, you probably feel quite isolated and alone. It's difficult to say that, isn't it? Because that's, in some ways, exaggeration is a wonderful way of. It's a dysfunctional way, but it's a wonderful way of covering up vulnerability.
Yeah, it is. And we get it also, not only people say, belong to this group, a lot of these hard people, so don't cross me. A lot of people will sort of name drop as if they move in very either regal or celebrity circles. So,
I'll tell you what.
They know these people. And again, as a way of boosting their own, they want other people to think that they're popular and well connected.
Yeah. Just as you were saying that, just as we're having this conversation, I was thinking about how in a group, if there's someone who is like that and talks about their circle of friends and all the things they do and everything else, and then you've got someone else in the group that says, do you know what? I feel completely lost. I feel completely isolated. I don't feel as if I've got anything interesting to say. I know who the group connect with. It's the latter, not the former.
It is very much, yeah.
People who, whether they're exaggerating or not, are full of stories about their own successes and experiences, are quite hard to connect with initially.
Yeah, they are.
You want a bit of humility, don't you?
You do. And the majority of people that go into recovery do find humility quite quickly. Another reason we exaggerate, apparently, is because we don't believe in the righteousness of our own cause. So we'll exaggerate the way we're feeling, or exaggerate a certain thing that we're trying to promote, but because there's not enough substance to our claims, we'll use exaggeration as a way of boosting that.
So again, that's another example of, whether it's you or something attached to you, it's another example of feeling as if, as an entity, you're not enough.
Yes. Quite. Yeah. No, absolutely right.
That's sort of, I believe in this, and if there's a need to exaggerate it, there's something there about you feeling that other people won't necessarily believe in it, and that's not okay. You can't kind of tolerate that. You find it amongst conspiracy theorists mostly. Yeah, where the Flat Earth Society. Yeah, they'll conflate any sort of very flimsy evidence to make it sound almost scientific. Yeah, that's confirmation bias, isn't it? It is confirmation bias, you're right. And I did come across that, but I've sort of left that out of my notes because we were moving into a quite a complex area at that point. Yeah. Now, I think we've always used phrases like, oh, you never think of me, or you always leave the lights on, and which is an exaggeration because people don't always leave the lights on, or we've probably all said, oh, you always do this, or we always say that. Yeah. And it's an exaggeration. And apparently that's because if you use an accurate statement at that point, it would fail to elicit the response that we think is appropriate. If you said to someone, oh, sometimes, once or twice you've left the lights on, it wouldn't ring a bell in that person's head to make them change the way they act. Yeah, it's a good one, that, because that is one of the most destructive aspects of a relationship. Sort of passive aggressive in some ways, is it? Would you say? Well, if you're constantly exaggerating the faults that you're finding in your partner, then apart from anything else, you're likely to create not only conflict but resentment. Yep. If someone says to you, "Oh, for God's sake, you always leave the light on," and you think to yourself, Well, I don't. No, I've done it a couple of times.
Yeah.
Regardless of what happens in that conversation, something in you is going to feel quite naturally as if you are unfairly viewed.
Yeah.
And that isn't very healthy for a relationship.
It's not healthy at all. No. And going back to what Robert Felvin was saying at the start, the first quote that I used there, that it damages the core of all relationships.
Exactly. I mean, it'd be like you saying that every time I go to a football match with you, Graham, you knock the lens out of my spectacles.
Or you say every time you go to West Ham, they always lose. You used to put that at my door.
That's true, actually. I did used to say that.
Yeah.
Although now I can say every time you go to football, they think you're a pensioner.
Which happened once. Another one that came up was jealousy.
Jealousy, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that was it was just a one word bullet point, really. And I thought, there's quite a lot in there. Again, we've done jealousy in the past,
but that's also about feeling not enough, isn't it? Because it's like if someone says, "Oh, I've done this" or "I've got this," if you're then exaggerating what you've done or what you've got, that's about you feeling not enough in the light of what someone's just told you.
Yeah, exactly.
Why does someone else's success or experience have to reflect on the way you feel about yourself? That's not a very good sign.
Is it? It's going back to what we've talked about in the past. It's like almost like a comparative self-esteem issue, isn't it?
Exactly.
If someone says, "Oh, I caught a fish," it's £25. You say, "Oh, wow, oh yeah." I said, "Oh, wow, Mom's 27." You know what I mean? It's that sort of thing, isn't it?
Whereas if I were in that conversation, I'd be saying, "That's interesting because I went fishing for a number of years and never caught a fish."
You'd under-exaggerate. What's the opposite of exaggerate? Just while you're thinking of that, do you think the propensity to exaggerate perhaps is born? I know you therapists like to think a lot of this happens in formative years.
Well, some therapists do. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not throwing you in there, but you always say it.
I know I do. I mean, I
said that as an exaggeration.
No, I think that's true. I think because I kind of work from a more psychodynamic core, I do tend to think about the way that people's developmental years have affected them. So what were you going to say then about exaggeration? Do you think it comes from...
I just wondered if it's something which we would get, our propensity towards that is formed in our early years, or it's something we learn later on, or is it nothing to do with that at all? I
think it probably has got something to do with it. I mean, for instance, if you exaggerate from a base of low self-esteem, I think that probably does. If, however, we've given it a couple of examples there, you might be feeling as if you need to exaggerate because of the life position you're in. You've had a problem with drink and you've got into peer support and you feel like you've got to try and get yourself accepted by a group, or it could be in any other walk of life. So I think there's probably a broad spectrum of reasons why people exaggerate. Sometimes people, I think, get caught up in the moment, don't they?
They do get caught. Yeah, very much. Yeah.
Everyone's kind of talking about all these things. You think, crikey, I feel left out. I feel like I need to come up with something here. You
do, and you'll find that it happens more. The more people drink, the more they exaggerate.
That is for sure. Yeah.
So stay away from the drinks. That'll help you to stop exaggerating.
There's a direct correlation between exaggeration and drinking.
There is. Yeah, it is. Yeah. They're very happy bedfellows.
Yeah. I suppose the opposite of exaggeration is... I don't know what the one word is. There must be one, but it's false modesty we're talking about, isn't it?
False modesty. Yeah.
If you're kind of deliberately underplaying stuff.
True, yes.
That's kind of that feels to me as if that's the antithesis. But I'm sure there is a word, but I'm not quite sure what it is.
We'll find it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It was quite interesting, again, when I was doing the research that I came across, it was quite a big section upon that we exaggerate internally when we catastrophize.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a good one, yeah.
And again, we've done catastrophizing as a whole episode, so I didn't want to look too much into that. But yeah, we do, don't we? We'll exaggerate the potential. We induce our own anxiety by catastrophizing.
Yeah, I think probably the internal exaggeration we do, or catastrophizing, making something worse than it is probably the most damaging, actually.
Yeah.
Because in some ways, our internal exaggeration of negative aspects of life and situations will probably underpin our outward exaggeration in some respects.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly feeling as if you've got to make up for something that that is actually a figment of your imagination anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people, when you have to remember what you've exaggerated, a bit like lying, then you've then got to make sure that you either meet the same level or increase it again, which does tend to happen when people recount the story.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they said last time. So to ensure they're not underplaying it, they'll go above and beyond again.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Uncle Albert in Only Fools and Horses. When he got mugged on the estate, it started off as 3 blokes, and by the time he'd finished telling the story, it was 7. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As it turned out, he'd only had a one-on-one punch-up with Knock Knock, that he used to play dominoes with.
Well, there you go. That's about self-esteem.
It is, yeah.
It's about saying, I had a punch-up with my friend who I played dominoes with, and he knocked me out. That does something to your self-esteem, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you kind of create this situation where you were mugged by 7 young hoodlums.
Yeah. And when I was doing the research, I came across factitious disorder.
I don't know anything about that.
No. It's when it's closely related to Munchausen syndrome.
Is it?
Yeah, okay. Well, the person will make up symptoms or even tamper with medical tests to convince others that treatment such as high-risk surgery is needed. So they'll exaggerate their illness.
Right.
Now, it's the extreme is when they'll exaggerate to the point where they'll go under the knife to get it sorted out. But again, it's an attention-seeking thing, and it is a recognised disorder.
Yeah. I wonder if you were doing a bit of attention seeking with your 100-day cold.
I think I probably wasn't I? I was exaggerated but that was delivered to me as an excuse. It wasn't something that I thought up. It was it was delivered, and I suppose I was about 40 days in, and I was all right.
Well, it's interesting though, isn't it? Because thinking about that, there are quite a lot of opportunities for things like that, aren't there? Because now, when people have got colds now, they say, I've probably got COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's been this sort of long-held running joke about man flu. Whenever a man's got a cold, he says, I've got the flu, I'm really terrible. These are all forms of exaggeration.
They are.
In a way, those are forms of exaggeration that are intended to gain sympathy and attention.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
They're not necessarily, in those cases, coming from low self-esteem. They're just coming from wanting to sit on the sofa watching the football with a bowl of soup.
Yeah, but again, we will
not have to cut the grass or do the laundry or whatever.
That sounds like that's a practiced line for you. Is that something you've done in the past?
No, I don't think I've ever done that. Whenever I'm ill, I always think, I wonder if I make more of how I'm feeling than other people would if they feel like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I sometimes wonder if I've got I've got a low pain threshold at the dentist, because I always have to get them to give me about 4 times the dose of anaesthetic.
Do you?
Yeah, but whenever I'm ill, with a cold or something, and there have been times where I really feel like absolute death, and it does cross my mind. I wonder if I'm just pathetic or whether this is really horrible. But of course, you can't tell, can you? Because you don't know how other people feel.
But you're internalising it on that basis, aren't you? Internally exaggerating, potentially.
I don't know if I'm exaggerating. I'm kind of wondering if I'm exaggerating.
You're wondering.
I'm kind of wondering if I'm sort of wallowing in self-pity of feeling ill, whereas other people would say, I'm just going to get on with it. I'll be bedridden for 3 days, and probably other people will be out carrying on work.
Yeah, they're still carrying hods up ladders. Yeah. Anyway, I looked at how best to deal with these people, because they can be irritating, and there's not a great deal on this, to be honest. Because the first point was
wash over you. I'd have thought.
Yeah, grin and bear it was the first point that came out. I thought, well, that's great advice. Good, nice one, thank you. Walk away was another one.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know what you could do with people like that. If people are serial exaggerators, you just want to try and keep your distance from them, don't you?
Well, it is that, or face it with humour. Although not sort of taking the piss directly, you can have a little bit of fun, can't you, with the exaggeration? But as long as you're respectful, I think it's okay to do that. But you don't want to end up sort of unintentionally bullying them, do you? If you do, gather people around you and make them laugh at their exaggeration. So you have to be a little bit careful there.
I suppose perhaps the most helpful thing that we could say about people that are exaggerating, that might help you to kind of stay calm, is to remember and recognise that there's probably something underneath it. They're not just doing it to be arseholes.
No, absolutely.
There's something that fires it, that powers it, and you might not know what it is, and it might run very deep and go back a very long way. So probably best just to chill out.
It is. I think that's really the bottom line. And again, just become to understand, because I've been exposed to it in recovery. I see it so often.
Yeah.
That I just see it as part of the recovery process.
Exactly.
You almost get it out of the system and on you move. So I do have an understanding of that. But otherwise, if you're not in that sort of peer group support environment, be to look at sort of distracting them, really just move them off the conversation onto something else, or find a common interest away from the story that they're telling you and exaggerating at that point.
There was a character, wasn't there, in Phoenix Nights who always used to exaggerate. Do you remember?
There? No, I don't. I have watched Phoenix Nights, but I don't remember much about it.
Yeah, you should. It doesn't stream anywhere, but I can't remember his name now, but he would exaggerate about everything.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Jay in the Inbetweeners.
Yeah,
he was brilliant at that, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's a serial exaggerator about his sexual exploits.
He was, yeah.
We've all been there, haven't we?
We have, but again, he sort of believed it, didn't he, in himself? He was sort of almost...
Well, of course, that's one of the dangers of exaggeration.
It is, yeah.
You can come to believe your own bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is another level, isn't it?
It is, but I think he was... If I was going to look for someone as I should have thought of that beforehand, really, but it's come to mind now.
Yeah.
Jay of the In-Between is a perfect illustration of exaggerating and moving, and that is very much it, lying as well.
Although I tell you what, as we're on that, and I know there'll be people listening that haven't seen the In-Betweeners, but there is, if you look at his relationship with his dad, you can see why he exaggerates, because his dad was always taking him down.
He was
undermining him.
He was in front of his mates as well.
Never encouraged him. Was always taking the piss out of him.
He was, yeah.
So if you grow up with a father who's constantly undermining your confidence, don't be surprised if you turn out to be someone who exaggerates all the time. So it's a perfect example.
We found it. It took us a long time to get there. We found it. It is rooted. It can be rooted in childhood. And we've had.
Yeah, you don't want a father who ridicules you over the size of your penis.
You don't. All this. I looked at all this highbrow stuff. I just needed to talk about the In-Betweeners, and we'd just sorted the whole of this lot out, wouldn't we?
Yeah, we could have just said, go and watch that episode where they go camping.
Well, exactly. Or any of the episodes, really. Yeah, well, the camping.
It's the camping one particularly, because that's when he has a conversation with his dad, and his dad, really undermines him and in front of his friends, which is even worse,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. Just the last point on that, on how to best deal with people. There's a summing up, really. It says, be grateful that you've identified exaggeration as an undesirable trait and can avoid doing it yourself.
Yeah, nicely bookended.
Was bookended. I just made that one up as I was doing the notes. But yeah, I did. But having said that, there was a couple of quotes I just wanted to throw in just quickly before we moved on to gratitude list.
Okay.
Nice way of doing it. I don't know if that is a real thing, but I thought it probably is quite good to identify it and think like that.
I think great gratitude's always worth having, isn't it?
In every episode,
in any situation.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of tiny little quotes here. I don't know who they're by, but one was, exaggeration is truth that's lost its temper. I quite liked that.
The truth that's lost its temper. Okay, yeah. You don't know who said that?
No. No, it's just like I looked at some of the images on, you can buy plaques, can't you, of stuff, and a lot of people like to put on their walls.
Have it put on a mug.
Yeah, put on a mug. Yeah, I don't know who would want that, but and the other one was, man is inclined to exaggerate almost everything except his own mistakes. Yeah. Yeah,
well, that's the truth.
Right there.
That's the truth. And actually, that is a sign of emotional maturity, where you can not exaggerate your own mistakes, but face up to them, accept them, take responsibility for them.
Yeah.
And actually, funnily enough, the more you're able to do that, the less you need to exaggerate anyway.
No, I agree. Sorry, I was just jotting down a quick note there. But yeah, that's fine. Should we move on to the gratitude list then?
Why don't we do that? Yeah.
Do you want to go first?
Well, funny enough, just as I was dialing in this morning, I thought, I haven't thought of anything for my gratitude
That's
list.
what I was just jotting down something right there, because it's something I'd left that blank and I've got to it. I thought, oh my God, I haven't filled it in. I always leave it blank and then fill it in at the last moment. But I have one that came to mind just as we were speaking. I thought, yes.
Well, funny enough, so I thought, I don't know what I can be grateful for this week. And then it suddenly popped into my head. I don't know where it came from or why it particularly came in at this particular point. But this week I've been grateful for hot honey.
Hot honey? Hot honey.
We haven't had that, have we?
I don't think so, but it sort of rings a bell, some distant bell perhaps.
Does it? Well, maybe I've had it before, but I'm grateful for it again.
Go on, we have no problem.
Do you know what it is?
Twice. Well, it's honey that's hot. Honey that's hot. Heat it up, don't you?
No, that's not right. Okay. No.
All right.
It's basically a fermented honey. What you do is you put aromatics in it. So I put a bit of orange peel in mine. So you get some raw honey. I put garlic in it and hot chilies. That's where the hot comes from. Thyme and some orange peel. And it sort of goes very runny and liquidy, and obviously gets very hot and takes on all those flavours you put in. And it's magnificent, sort of drizzled on pizza. It's fantastic.
Pizza, okay.
Yeah, nice. A bit of toast with some cream cheese and then drizzled on the top. It's one of those condiments that can turn its hand to all manner of different dishes, and it's incredibly easy to make. So basically, I know you were scoffing at the idea of having anchovies in the cupboard. I just bought another 2 tins this week.
Have you? Good. Yeah.
But everyone can make hot honey, and if you haven't ever made hot honey, you should sort it out immediately.
Well, I've learned something new. It won't be something I'll be doing, but I can appreciate that the end result is probably is lovely.
It is. Well, you see, you'd like hot honey.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah,
it's actually quite nice on porridge, believe it or not.
Is it?
Yeah.
Can you make a jar and let me have it then?
Well, you can make a bloody jar. Can't you cut some chilies up?
Eh?
You can cut some chilies up, couldn't you?
Yeah, probably.
And put some sprigs of thyme in a jar. You can make some yourself.
Okay. I'll see what I can do. Don't hold your breath. I won't be reporting back on it. But
I'm not even exaggerating how easy it is.
Hey, I think you might be underplaying it.
No.
Is that the opposite? Underplaying? No, it's not.
Understate.
Understating. Yeah, that's it. We got there eventually.
Yeah.
Understating. Now, on my gratitude list, it only happened yesterday, so it's fortuitous. I didn't try and fill it in beforehand. But yeah, which was free cakes. Now, this was.
Oh, you mean cakes released into the wild?
Yeah, running wild. Yeah, free range cakes. Now, I suppose I should be grateful, perhaps, to Liz who bought the cakes to the group yesterday.
Oh, good.
We're meeting because she's a caterer. And she's
lovely.
Loves lovely baking. She bought these load of cakes in, which we all sort of delved into. There's some left over. She wrapped up and said, yeah, take those home. So I've got some in my cupboard. So I was very grateful for that.
Yeah, I can imagine you would be.
Yes.
I mean, who wouldn't be grateful for free cake?
Free homemade cake, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't like it at the moment because I've given up cake for Lent.
Oh, have you? Right, okay, not chocolate or anything in particular? Or
chocolate, cake, biscuits, crisps and ice cream.
Why are you doing this?
Just cause.
Because of right, okay. And that's because Jesus said that you got to.
Jesus said you mustn't eat those things.
Yeah, it's in the Bible. I'm sure it's in there at some point.
He had to fast for 40 days and 40 nights. Yeah, so the least I can do is give up confectionery.
You're aligning yourself with the lad, aren't you? And running alongside. You're walking in his shoes.
Yeah. Beth's given up social media between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. So I thought I should show willing and do something, with similar heft.
Okay, but outside of those hours, she's going mad on it, isn't she?
That's right. Yeah. Outside of those hours, she's on it permanently.
Well, I might give up cake then between the hours of 7 and 7:30 in the morning. How about that?
Well, it's a gesture, isn't it?
I've done my bit towards it.
It's a gesture.
Yeah, I think so. Well, yeah. Although I might struggle with the free cakes that's sitting in my cupboard at the moment.
That's true. Yeah. Why don't you go 7 till 7:15?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I was going a bit too.
Don't make it too hard for yourself.
Yeah. Okay. The next feature is that 100 skills that every person should master. And this week it's buy a suit. No, that's a bit of a strange one, isn't it? Yeah, you've got to buy a suit.
That's a little bit, yeah. I mean
some strange things.
Why would everyone need to buy a suit?
Need to have the skill. I don't know. It's not much of a
skill to buy. So this is about the skill to buy some clothes that fit you.
Well, I know, yeah. It's bizarre, isn't it? Bizarre. I don't know. I'd say some of these things on this list are crazy.
Well, I'll tell you what, though. I don't know if you have this, but whenever I buy shoes, I'm never quite sure whether they're quite the right size. Do you have that?
Yeah, because
I always think, could this be a little bit better fitting? Is it not quite wide enough or long? I do have that trouble with shoes.
I do, yeah. I think you have the trouble with clothes as well. I do, because there is no standard sizing. You buy something that's XL, for example, which I normally do for a T-shirt. Some of them are tight and some of them are down to your knees. Both labelled up as XL. Do you know what I mean? It can be a little bit like that with shoes sometimes, because sometimes I'll have 11 and a half rather than 11, because the 11, like my toes are touching and it's a bit uncomfortable. So there isn't standardisation, which annoys the hell out of me, because you can probably tell.
Yeah, I think it's important to be able to buy clothes that fit you, but that's a bit of a weird one.
It is a weird one, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, on this day in music then, but in which year?
Yep.
Now, you did challenge Lizzie last week, and she did tell me, my daughter Lizzie, that she by fluke, she did get the Kylie Minogue question right about being.
You got it right?
Yeah.
About 2 points then?
Yeah, number one in 1988. It was a complete guess, because it was before she was born, so she just guessing. But I think a lot of these are just guesses anyway, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I'm not very good at guessing then, am I?
We can make a slightly educated guess, I suppose.
That's what I do every week, and I quite often don't get any points.
Well, you might be the first one. Do you know what year or which year number one in the UK Kaiser Chiefs had Ruby? Ruby. I was going to say, normally you give us a little burst of song at that stage.
I don't really like the Kaiser Chiefs at all.
I'm
probably going to get this wrong, because, they're still around, aren't they? 2023.
Ruby, this...
Yeah, I don't like it though. I don't like any of those Kaiser Chiefs songs.
It just reminds me of my auntie Ruby, which I quite.
Does it?
Sentimentally.
Was it one of her favourites?
I was going to give you a clue then, but she died before this happened. Yeah, before they were number one. Yeah.
I don't think that would have made much difference to me, to be honest. So it's going to be after 2010. I'm thinking. I'm going to go 20. I'm probably going to be wildly out here. I'm going to go 2012.
2007. So yeah, a bit further ago.
They've been going for much longer than I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. 2007.
Yeah, I know. Time flies.
Well, to be honest, that the difference in my answer from the actual correct answer is illustrative of my disdain for them.
Perhaps it is. Yeah, you're exaggerating how much you hate them.
I hate them even more now.
Do you know the year in which Woody from Bay City Rollers was born?
Shangalang.
So yes, he was born. It's his birthday.
I was a big Bay City Rollers fan.
I know you were. You had your scarves made by your mum tied to your wrists, didn't you?
At my cousin's wedding.
Your cousin's wedding.
I looked right, Dick.
I could just imagine your mum cutting up an old tartan skirt.
That's basically what she did. It's literally what she did.
Yeah.
So they were popular early 70s. I'm probably going to say 72, 73. That would have been. And Woody, this is the year he was born, right?
Yeah.
So he might have been, let's say he was 20 in 73. Maybe he was a bit, let's go 55.
Oh, you're just outside of the point, 57. That's annoying, isn't it, eh?
If Lizzie got that one on the button, I'll be very surprised.
Yeah, well, we're waiting here. So yeah, he's 67 today. Oh, it's 24th. What's the date today? I'm never really
25th.
That was his birthday. He was 67 yesterday.
Oh, well, happy birthday yesterday, Woody.
If Woody's listening.
Yeah, he's bound to be, isn't he?
Bound to be. He's a big fan, apparently. What about, there's someone who isn't a big fan because they're dead now. It's Davy Jones from the Monkees. Remember the Monkees? Now, he's the only.
Now, I've got to say, these are three difficult questions.
They are quite tricky, but it's just dictated by the dates available to me when I was looking at this.
So, when did he die? Can you tell me how old he was?
And he died at the age of 66.
Oh, quite a long time ago, then, I reckon.
Yes, and he died on the 29th of February, so it's come up to the anniversary of his death.
So I reckon if he was 66, I reckon he must be. They were big in the 60s, weren't they? He'd definitely be in his mid 70s, I would have thought. And how?
No, he died at 66. So
yeah, but if he was alive now,
if he's still alive now, right? Okay.
So, so if he died at 66, let's say he was 76, that would be 2014. I'm going to go 2014.
Oh, 2012. So unlucky, mate. He just hit the post on a couple of these, and he goes into the band with Vangelis, doesn't he? Davy Jones. It's the dead band.
Can we just have a little recap of the lineup?
If we can remember them. So it was Vangelis and Demis Roussos initially.
Yeah, Roussos and Vangelis, Whitney Houston,
Johnny Rotten.
No, not Johnny Rotten. Sid Vicious. Davy Jones.
Last week was Bon Scott.
Oh, Bon Scott. Yeah. Now, Davy Jones. Davy Jones play guitar?
Wasn't he the singer? Was he? Well, they're all the singers, really, weren't they? They're all like.
Yeah, I think he was the singer, though, wasn't he?
I think he was.
But he's probably more known for tambourine.
I think he probably was. Yeah.
So we've got tambourine because I don't think we've got tambourine.
We haven't got tambourine. You can bring that to the table. That particular skill.
So we've got a strong vocal lineup.
We have, yeah.
But instrumentally, we're not doing brilliantly, are we?
So great.
This is shaping up to be a cappella. I'd say
it would, but that'd be nice. They could go around your door at Christmas and sing some nice carols. A lot of them.
Yeah, although I don't know how Sid Vicious will do with a cappella.
No, he
could gob on people, couldn't he?
That's all he'd do. If you didn't get any money for the Christmas carol, when you knocked on someone's door, they said, "Go away." That would be it. Windows would be put through. But Davy Jones, he died. His death was 29th of Feb, and I was a bit. Just wanted to mention yesterday a very sad death of Stan Bowles, one of
Stan Bowles,
footballing heroes from the 70s. Really died yesterday.
He was the target of one of my favourite football-related jokes. Yeah,
about his gambling, probably.
No, about when Stan Bowles was picked to play for England. Alf Ramsey said, if you're not playing well, I'm going to pull you off at half time. And Stan Bowles said, that's good. At QPR, I only get half an orange.
I suppose you could use that for a lot of different footballers, couldn't you, really?
Yeah, the first time I heard it was with relation to Stan Bowles, yeah.
Yeah, the Stan Bowles joke I heard was that he can pass a ball, but he can't pass a betting shot. and he did have a big problem with gambling and alcohol. So did he make our Addicts 11?
I don't think he did. I don't think he did. But then I think there was a lot of competition in that sort of mercurial playmaker role, wasn't there?
There was, yeah.
I mean, Maradona, for example. I don't know if he did make it. Did he?
Yeah, I think he did. Because Stan Bowles used to play the number 10 position, really, didn't he? Like Maradona. So
George Best.
George Best. They were all in the.
Yeah.
They were better addicts ahead of Stan Bowles, basically, weren't they?
That's quite bad, isn't it? If you can't even get in the Addicts 11.
Yeah, but I thought it was quite sad. Just thought I'd mention it.
All right, good.
All right, mate. Excellent work.
See you next time.
See you next week.
Laters.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Sideways was created by Graham Landy and Martin Pankhurst. If you want to read more about our work or sort through the extensive archive of past episodes, just visit grahamlandy-wellbeing.co.uk/sideways-podcast. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at Sideways Podcast, and you can email us if you have a question or if there's something you'd like us to cover. But most of all, we want to tell you how grateful we are that you come and listen, and we ask that if you've enjoyed what you've heard, that you spread the word. And we'll see you next week.